Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond Influence. I am Kwame, and I'm here with my co-host, Scott, and we have a very special guest with us today. Someone who is very, very transparent, open, and honest in all of their content. We have Louis Levanti with us. How you doing, Louis?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, super excited to have you on. Love your content. As we were getting ready for the episode, I often will go through and scroll various posts. I think I got lost in like a 45-minute cycle, and I'm like, there's so much going on in the world that I just simply don't know. And I'm like, I feel now invested. I'm like, Halloween costumes, like the Kardashian drama. I was like, okay, how do I get these updates? But for those of our listeners who don't know you or your content, maybe walk us through like a little bit how you get started. What's your channel about? Like, how are you putting yourself out there online?
Yeah, I started my channel back in about 2019, towards the end, before the pandemic. And my main focus was pop culture, because I've always had a fascination, whether it would be with movies, TV, a lot of music. So I loved award shows. They were like my Super Bowl. So I started talking about, believe it or not, the first video I did was a celebrity roast. So I used to work for Comedy Central, MTV, and Nickelodeon, and the roasts were a huge thing. And I saw that nobody was really doing that online. Besides posting the clips. So my goal was, how do I do this without getting flagged for community violations, but also make it super lighthearted and fun? So I would pick celebrities and I would make up things that were just like simply not true, but also not harmful. And then I would also throw in a cartoon character or a fictional character or two. And I built a 20-part series off of that. And I then started doing pop culture news, because I feel like people weren't doing that either in the short form, besides news outlets who were doing more written. So then that built my platform. And from there, I started intermingling lifestyle and food and cocktails. I do a lot of travel. So really with the focus of pop culture. So I try to relate it back in some way. But yeah, I love talking about celebrities in a lighthearted way now. And I like to keep people informed. I think keeping people informed is super important, especially when I do those deep dives and types of things. I want people to kind of be like, oh, wow, I would have never known that unless I watched his video. So a lot of research, but also a lot of fun, and still branching slowly to other avenues. So it's been really exciting.
I love the concept of like, I'm just going to, make up funny fake news. I'm curious, did like any of that come back, or was there like a particular video where you're like, oh, this was like, it just hit and like you nailed it?
There was one. I always said when I first started doing content, the way I knew I was nailing those videos was when I would go to say something and I would start laughing to myself and have to stop, because I was like, oh my God, if I'm laughing at it, either it's too harsh or it's just perfect. And I remember my most viral one that I did involved Adam Sandler. I didn't realize he had such like this hardcore fandom behind him. And we all know he like dresses kind of like a middle schooler who runs to class or whatever. So I made that joke and everyone was like making fun of my fashion in the video, because clearly I'm wearing a sweatshirt. And I was just like, I deserve that, whatever. But that one hit so hard. And I just remember saying that. And I was like, oh, this is going to do really well. Like, this is going to be a good one. Some of them still go viral to this day. Like, I'll get comments on them from like, I'm like, why are you guys looking at a video from 2020? Like, this is kind of insane. But also, yeah, it's not problematic. So keep looking at it.
Gotta love it. It is, I love, as much as people say that, they don't keep up with pop culture. Everybody wants to keep up with pop culture, because you go to a party, you go to a hangout, you go to happy hour, like that is the topic of conversation. And I love that, no bias here, but I love that reality TV has introduced pop culture into more of our lives. It's obviously a big staple of, my life. Have you ever roasted any Love is Blind people?
No. And here's why. So I think what I've learned to do is, so the roasting was like pre 2021. So I was still kind of doing that back in 2020. And then I started to adapt it to doing more pop culture. And I was getting these opportunities of working with the Netflixes of the world or the Paramount. I worked for Paramount at the time. I was working with like Hulu and all that stuff. So I didn't want to roast the casts of the shows that I would eventually maybe have to promote and meet, which luckily, we were just talking about this before, I did get to go on that trip to Seattle to meet some of the Love is Blind cast and promote the show. And I was like, Thankfully, I didn't talk about any of these people because this would be really awkward. So I didn't roast any of them, but I did do a lot of like who I think is going to end up with who's and that kind of stuff, just to like play into the fandom a little bit. And I think that's how my content's evolved. It went from being very, I don't want to say salacious, but definitely a bit more opinionated and a little rude at times, to being more positive, uplifting with an opinion. I think you're still allowed to have an opinion and people can disagree with it, but never from a place of pure meanness.
Yeah, I give you full license to start that trend with Kwame if he lets that mustache grow through the end of the month, because I already can't take it. It's too much.
I shaved today. I was like, I saw November was on the little slide. I was like, I shaved everything off. I hate having facial hair, so November is not for me.
Oh, it's so funny. Chelsea posted, it's like, it's okay when you're going to shave and have a mustache, just give me a heads up. I was like, I feel you. I feel you so deep, Ellie. You can't just spring that on me. We're about to record you a freaking mustache on the call. Like, what are you doing?
Like a month in advance.
Oh.
You know, hey, personally, I said it in the story. I love it. I think it gives me a very, I feel like Sean Connery. I call it Sean Quamery. I feel very in tune. You know what's it's funny when you talk about the roasting people and then ending up walking into them. My goodness, I was actually at the Capitol Hill Block Party, which is a big party, one-day festival that happens here. And Marshall and I went out. We just, hangout day for the boys. And we're sitting there, we're eating a sandwich, and we like look across our table, and this girl's just staring at us for a little bit. And we're like, who is this person? Why does she look so familiar? And then she walks up to us, and as soon as she says something, it clicks. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this girl roasted me for a solid month.
I feel like that's like not a fear of mine, but I think a good example is, so when I was at Paramount, I did a lot of carpets and press junkets. So I was already put in that position where these people, one, I had to know who they were. Two, I had to make sure I treated them properly and with respect. But three, make sure they didn't know who I was because I said anything negative. And I just did a carpet actually for a reality TV night, and I was interviewing a lot of the Dancing with the Stars cast. And I used to make a ton of Dancing with the Stars content, but all like who I was rooting for and like rating their dances and all that stuff. And Ezra, who was on this most recent season, came up to me, and I had just done a ton of stories on his partner, Anna Delvey, that went super viral. And he looked at me, and like we were like, the interview was happening. Like he was coming up to me, his PR team was like, you want Ezra? I'm like, I'll take Ezra. And he looked at me, he's like, I know you. And I was like, oh, for where? And he was like, and I was like, TikTok? And he goes, yes. He was like, absolutely. And then the conversation went so nicely because he was familiar with what I do. And then I posted the video, and it did so well because it was like, there was that understanding rather than it being like, oh, you talked negatively about me, I'm going to give you terrible answers.
I think I love that when folks are cool about, they understand that you're out there trying to put yourself out there, make content, and not doing it like a crazy disrespectful way. I think if you're just slandering or like taking shots at folks, but if you're in the public eye to an extent, you should expect you're gonna, you're on Dancing with the Stars. You're gonna get some commentary. So I don't know. I'm glad you took that approach with it.
I also don't think I'm making like theories to like destroy people's lives. Like there are people, my peers that are in that space, and like they will make these really huge fabricated stories to get the views. And yes, it works 100%. But at the same time, my thing is, I want to know that if I step into the same room as these people, when I step into the same room as these people, because that's my goal, is to be a part of this and to amplify them and amplify their work. I want to make sure I never made them feel negatively or bad about themselves or whatever it may be in another sense. And other people don't really carry that. They care more about the numbers. And I think longevity is very important.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, it's funny reflecting on you and your content. I think there are certain people in life who have this ability to say both really positive things and, show a negative side of something, but it's in a way that's like honest, kind of endearing, funny, lighthearted. But whereas like, me personally, I don't have that gift. If I say something, they're like, wow, that guy's a jerk. And so it's just interesting. Like, I love how you're able to tread, because you give a lot of love on your channel with your content. You're celebrating this piece of fashion or this, red carpet look or whatever, but then also being like, biggest bombs of whatever. And I think I think the way you navigate it is tasteful and leads to probably good relationships. So do you have advice for creators on like how to navigate that in a way that doesn't lead to them just like, losing followers, losing, the folks that they're roasting at the same time?
I think for me, what I started to learn was I didn't enjoy some of the negative criticism I would get from being so harsh, because it's like if you dish it out, you have to be able to take it. And I was able to take it, but at the same time, it was taking away energy from the story at hand, where it's like when I do these stories, like, so I think a good example was I just did the Kim Kardashian wore Princess Diana's necklace. Like, to me, that's such an interesting story to be like, she's the first person to have worn this and she bought it at an auction. But at the same time, like, I can still resonate with the side of, yes, this woman has worn other people's fashion so many other times and received backlash. But in my opinion, she looks beautiful. Like, there's like a way to say, like, she does this time and time again and people don't like it, but she looks great. So it's a way to almost protect myself from the Kardashian fandom, but also show them like, hey, I am also on your side. I totally get it. I think she looks great, but maybe we should unpack why people are pissed off about it. Same with like Olivia Rodrigo. She had that whole red flag thing. That one I'm getting a little bit more backlash because I did say, I was like, she's just describing Elon Musk. And yeah, that is a red flag. But I'm willing to welcome that negativity because I truly don't care. Whereas I'd rather her fandom be on my side than his fandom.
Yeah. Luckily I'm already married because I would definitely go to space. So.
Yeah. She could have worded it a little bit better. But I think to the advice part of it, it's like, if you wouldn't say something to your friends or to that person's face, you probably shouldn't say it online because it's amplified 100 times more. And I think that's just common sense. But if it's not, it should be. But yeah, it's like, if you would never say it to someone's face, don't say it online. And also, if that is not how you speak or how you inflect online, then don't do it, because I feel like people see through when people are lying or trying to put on this persona. It's very obvious when someone is scripted or not passionate about something and just saying it for the wow factor.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think I really, really love that belief that like you won't say anything if you think it's really going to like deeply impact someone. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like what a lot of people don't realize, I mean, they might realize it, might not, but people will sometimes put it to the side because they care about the engagement and that possibility to be famous, or get kind of that little 15 seconds, whatever the case may be, get that viral video. When people are going through Love is Blind and it's being shown to the entire world, I feel like every part of your life is being deeply dissected. Mm-hmm. And your families have to see every negative, moment that is amplified, right? Because it is dramatized for reality TV. They put the slow, scary music behind it, the pauses, the faces, the looks. And then people dissect those moments so deeply. And then they become internet psychologists or therapists. And then they dive in even deeper on what they think is wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Right. And that was one of the hardest things for me to overcome. And I'm actually, it has given me significantly tougher skin, mm-hmm. right? But when I was going through it, I remember there were maybe 2 or 3 days in my life when Love is Blind was going on where I didn't leave the house because I didn't want to be seen by anyone. I didn't want to have to, explain myself to anyone. And I just thought to myself, if I can just stay at home, put my headphones on, sleep as much as possible, this will be over soon enough. So I think that is definitely a note that I wish more of the world would listen to, is that people are out there and they can see these things. And even if they're, they have 1 million followers, 10 million followers, they're still human beings, and it will in some way sit with them. And if it sits with them in a really harsh way, and if you are amplifying it to the world and the world is agreeing with you so much so that they're also reproducing content on the same alignment, man, you can break somebody.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, I think also just maintaining your authenticity in the sense of, if you're wrong about something or you do something wrong, don't beat around the bush, like own it. Like I've said things wrong in my videos, like nothing wrong about a person, but I've gotten a fact wrong, or I got something wrong about their favorite person. That welcomes a lot of negativity. But if I don't acknowledge that I was wrong or that I did something wrong, people will come at you even 10 times harder. And then there's really no way to hide from it, where it's like, you have to do your due diligence, whether it's researching something or just talking about a person in general, where it's like, okay, if I'm watching this back and I feel like this would hurt somebody's feelings or make them feel the way you were just describing, maybe I should delete the clip. Like maybe it doesn't need to go in there. It might not be worth it. If you get 1 million views and yeah, you're like, that's worth it to you. But at the end of the day, that everybody's going to remember that you did that to someone. And I feel like that takes away any credibility that you ever had.
One thing you hit on a little bit, the transition of your content over time. And I really like is, you share a lot of your kind of personal story, you show your relationship. And I'm curious, like, was that a difficult decision to share that with your audience? Do you feel like there are like a lot of positives that come from it? Are there negatives? Like, I think that is a universal challenge we hear from creators is how do I open up and like, let people in and decide my level of vulnerability and my comfort level with how far I let them into my life?
Yeah, I had that struggle actually when I first moved to LA back in 2021 because I wasn't out yet like publicly. I was out to like a few friends and like a few family members. But I was never out on the internet because I just didn't feel my time was there. And I also didn't know why I was doing it. Like, why would I be coming out on the internet? Like, what does this offer anybody? But a lot of my audience felt kind of ownership over me in a sense and knew things before I did in a sense, quote unquote, which isn't a real thing. If I don't know it, you don't know it, but I digress. And I felt like a lot of pressure from people being like, if I was like talking about like women or if I was talking about like dating, they'd be like, well, I'm confused, whatever. And then when I decided to actually come out, it was easier to do when I was doing it. Like the thought of it beforehand, I was like, this is so stressful. I don't know if I'm going to do this. But then when I like made a post just like coming out and like telling my coming out story and posting actually clips of my brothers hearing me come out, it made me realize that the positives were that there were so many people that followed me that were waiting for help almost like they needed a push. I remember I was at VidCon like 2 years ago and someone came up to me and asked me for a picture and basically was just like, you helped me decide to come out to my family because I didn't have anybody who liked celebrities as much as me and my family and someone publicly out as bisexual or gay or whatever like you may be. And he was like, I really wanted to thank you. And I was like, oh, and I didn't understand the severity of that in the moment. And then I told my boyfriend and he was like, that's why you do it. Like you have to remember like what's the why, and those people are why you do what you do, because now you're openly out and now you're making content that they might like to make or like to talk about, and now they feel like it's okay and they feel normal. So the positives outweigh any negative I ever received. I don't even know what the negatives are because I don't even pay attention to them.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many different ways to connect with your audience, to whether it's sharing a really lighthearted clip, it's to make them laugh when something serious happens and you want to share a message when it's a really important and impactful time and you want to have a call to action, or you just want to be there and support them and make them feel seen and heard and we talk about this. Social media provides us the most compelling way to find people like you and who share your unique experience than I think has ever existed. Because, I think there are so many creators from so many different walks of life that for most people, there's some representation of you or what you identify with, whether it's an activity you're into, a sport you follow, something you're passionate about, a lifestyle, whatever it might be. So I love that kind of multiple dimensionality and also the inspiration and kind of connectedness that you can create with an audience. It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's been really rewarding. I can't even remember, like, even when I was at my full-time job, like, it didn't feel as rewarding because the job that I was doing was for the overall growth of a company versus for the building of an audience and a community. Whereas I feel like with my page, I've been able to build this community of pop culture lovers, but then there's also people who like are obsessed with me and my boyfriend. Like we go to concerts and people are like, you guys you're the couple that just guessed the celebrity. And we're like, yeah, that's us. Like they're like, we love playing with you guys. Like to us, it's like, we're really building something that's important and people can use as an escape. Whereas when you're working a corporate job, the goal is for the company to make money or to make their ends meet. For us, it's like, how many people can we reach in the most positive way and have the most impact?
It's really cool because I think about my, journey and my career here as well. And I think one thing that's been really cool about my integration into Later and what I do here is that as someone who obviously has been trying to build my brand and become somebody further than, what I was just displayed on TV. It has been really important for me to spend some time there and grow as an individual and as a creator, as an influencer, whichever way you want to categorize it. And I'm very grateful that my surroundings and my leadership here has been pushing that in a positive way and encouraging that. I think that's been such a big relief, and it's really helped me to just like be able to hone in on these things, because it helps me, yes, in my life, but it also helps me at work. It helps me better understand who I am as a creator, helps me to be able to help the people around me, my company, my organization, understand creators, because that is what we're all about. We want to build the bridge. We want to build that ecosystem. We want to create that sense of togetherness and making sure that everyone's advancing together. So I think that's really cool. And I know you just recently, I guess not recently anymore, but to a sense this year, you left your full-time job. I'd love to know what finally pushed that step.
Yeah, I also had been working there since 2019. I had been working since probably 2016 as an intern at all different companies. So I did Good Morning America, Live with Kelly and Ryan, and then I was at Viacom, which then obviously ultimately became Paramount. I had been there full time since 2019 up until this year. And the thing that really pushed me was that not only was I building my platform with the job, but when I was doing all of these things, so I was getting opportunities on carpets. I was getting opportunities to work with some of the biggest movies that were coming out. Press junkets were so new to me, but I was getting to go and sit in these hotel rooms and interview people that I never would have that FaceTime with. And I was really able to make it my own and be like, I'm not just going to ask you the generic question. I'm going to make this fun for the both of us. In the back of my mind, knowing this wasn't my forever. It wasn't going to be me getting told by my boss to go do these things for the purpose of growing their followings. It was going to be for me to do mine. And it got to a point where my business really started to pick up and I was getting more opportunities. I was getting to travel more. I was getting to do more carpets on my own. And I could tell it was interfering with my job and also with myself mentally, that it was just that breaking point. I was like, it's time for me to take this leap, because if I don't close one door, the rest of the doors are going to remain shut on the other end. And as soon as I left, it was definitely tough for me because like stability and paychecks and all that stuff, that you want to be safe and secure. Once I took that leap, it had just reaffirmed what I had been hoping, was that I was going to get so much more opportunity, and I did. Now I'm going to carpets by myself. Like for me, like brands are asking me to go do their reality TV carpets. I'm getting to go travel and promote shows and do all that stuff. I got to go to Australia. I got to go to Malta to do like a bunch of stuff for that. And it truly, I just needed the push. And I think I needed the confidence in myself to know that like I've built this from scratch and that it will last as long as I want it to. And I think I'm not a quitter. So I think that was my ultimate thing, was like just re-establishing that with myself and then being like, all right, time to go.
I love that about, building something for yourself. I also love the point you made about creating an audience, and, Kwame hit on it. It's interesting. I've worked for a lot of different companies. I worked for Mercedes and it's like the most, factory car company, like, branded marketing kind of stuff. And I think what I found is like special and unique about being in the creator economy is we just have a fundamentally different view on the way that companies should interact with consumers. And I think it's so cool to see these kind of creator first brands, like Kylie creating her entire line. She built an audience and then she goes out and builds a product for them that resonates deeply with them, rather than creating a widget and then trying to get everyone excited about it. And I think it's really fun to watch creators build this community and then find really unique value for them. The tough thing is, companies already exist. And so how do you now hook them in to this kind of creator economy ecosystem? And I just think it's cool to see how certain brands have really adapted to this and gone creator first and found really amazing people to connect these audience. And I've had so many bad marketing experiences in my life that when I see it done right, it's like, and also being part of it done right, it makes me feel like I'm somehow saving consumers from terrible life experiences, one interaction at a time.
Totally.
Yeah. So when we think about your transition into being a full-time creator, obviously there has to be something along the path that makes you think, okay, I'm doing well enough now, right? So to start things off with, I'd love to know about your first brand deal. And then, as we speed along, I'd love to know a bit about, I guess you don't have to give us numbers specifically, but maybe your most lucrative brand deal.
Totally. Well, my first ever brand deal was actually back in 2020. It was before I was even managed by anybody, before I had a manager to negotiate my deals for me. And I was actually reached out to by Bumble. So they were doing like virtual dating. And I did that. And it actually was the first brand deal I did. And it was the one brand deal I did that made me realize I should not promote things that I do not resonate with. And I don't use dating apps. I never use dating apps. Also, they were operating on as if I was a straight male dating a woman. And I was like, this just isn't making sense. But it was the first brand deal I did. So I took it. And I remember talking about this online and being like, hey guys, remember that deal I did? Yeah, I'm out now. So clearly it was a lie. But it did well. People loved it. It was great. But that was my first intro into like realizing, okay, when I do these things, they need to be things that I resonate with. And I think in terms of most lucrative, it had to have been, I want to say I just did a DirecTV brand deal. I think it was lucrative in more ways than one. I think the team was so great to work with. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize makes a deal lucrative, is that the team you're working with really believes in you and believes the content that you do. And that was one of the few times where I really felt like the brand knew me, where they knew my content, they knew what I was good at. They gave me full reign on the questions I was asking. They provided me with an opportunity that I needed to fill after leaving my job. They're like, we want you on a carpet. And I made so much content for them that not only was I paid like a fee for it, but the content then transcended from their platforms onto mine, made me money on my platforms, had more carpet people look at me. And I think that truly was the most exciting, the most fun, the most creative I was able to be, because it made me realize that I can lean into trends without the trends being a sound or a dance, which a lot of people don't realize. So I got to do that trend where it was like giving celebrities a picture of themselves from like high school or something and asking them for a signature. And it went so well on the view side, but also on the relationship building side with them. Like, I know those reality stars left remembering that moment because they literally signed an autograph of their high school photo. So that was like very, very lucrative for me.
That's awesome. I love the point about, the team and the trust and getting to know your content. It was interesting. We met with a couple creators last week who have like pretty large followings and are doing brand deals, and they gave very similar feedback. And it was like, understand my content, understand my audience, understand how we would work together. And one thing that he said, which was super interesting, was, I never do a deal unless I sit down with the team and we have a discussion about, what do you want from me? What do I want from you? How is this going to better us plus the audience? And I thought that was, it's a really mature perspective. And you could argue some people don't have the luxury of going through all of that discussion ahead of time. But I think the more that you can be very clear about, what are we trying to accomplish? How do we accomplish it together? How do we leverage the creativity of both groups, the resources of both groups, to really showcase the product in a unique way and have some personality behind it and connection? Because I think you probably have seen it. If you can attach a product to like a really fun thing or a really memorable moment or something beyond just a generic, here's the thing, love it, use it, cool, next, where it's like, oh my God, I'm going to Coachella and I'm taking all of this, with me, CFIT 1, CFIT 2, here's all the memories and experiences. Here's me having the best time of my life. They're going to be like, oh my God, remember when Louis was at Coachella and XYZ brand. And I just think that those are the kinds of things where you can't replace that relationship and trust and just a lack of transactional nature.
Yeah, I'd like exactly like you said, it's more of like the plug and play approach. I think where Coachella is a perfect example, because I got to work with one of my dream brands, which was Coca-Cola. They sent me to Coachella, and basically they were like, we have a Coke studio activation and you have 1 hour that you need to be there and make content, and then you're good to go. You get to enjoy the entire festival. And that for me, I was like, oh, I need to make the best content like ever. I have an hour to get this done. I had 2 deliverables. One was a vlog, which I don't typically do vlogs, but I know like when I do them, I make sure they are very like me oriented. And I did interviews. So it was like, hey, what can I get out of this as well besides the tickets? It's give them a good piece of content that also fits with my niche, but then also give them what they want. And I think it came across so authentically because I love Coachella. I'm planning on going like every year as long as I can because I love music festivals. And it just performed so well. And the team was so great to work with. And I think with that, beforehand, we had a briefing call. And I think a lot of people like take for granted those briefing calls, where I love when an agency or the brand direct will show me a PowerPoint of what I need to be doing, because it'll answer questions that I probably have, but also then I move forward and I'm making the best piece of content possible because I have all the information I need in the call and then hopefully emailed to me after. So I think those things are super valuable and they make the deals more lucrative long term and also in the short term if it is just like a one-off deal.
I think every brand and influencer marketing team was like, oh my God, you're our dream creator to work with. You read the brief, you want to engage and understand it, and you like actively want to go out and create amazing content. It speaks to my heart. So
it's the corporate in me. Like I give me pictures, give me a written, give me the brief, give me exactly what you want. It's just so much more helpful. Like even I did Hulu and Lollapalooza, like they did the same thing. They had a call. Here's what we need. Here's what we want. Go enjoy the festival. I was like, this is my dream. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah. I think you've definitely had a bit of a plus from being in the entertainment and television space. I feel like it's probably really helped your ability to create and create content that's within your niche and relatable because you're in that world. You grew up in it. It almost feels like. So I agree with you in the activation aspect of things, right? I love when my brand deal is we're going to send you to this place. You're going to get to enjoy in what's going on, partake in it. And then what you can come up with out of there is what your final product is going to be. And I also think another thing that you mentioned that I really, really agree with is it's really important for brands to want to take time to talk to creators and tell them, like, this is what we want from you. Let me show you what we need. Let's have that conversation and do the head nodding or the head shaking, whichever one it is, because I think I've said this before. I had a very horrid experience with a brand where they said, hey, we want to have a call at this time. And I'm like, okay, cool. I hop on the call. The person hops on for, I think it was like the whole thing was like 30 seconds. They were like, they hopped on. They were like, hey, just want to let you know, this is like what we want to avoid. Maybe you want to do this. Does that sound good? Cool. And they were like, I got to go pick up my kids. I was like,
okay, so 10 other questions, but we'll talk later.
Yeah. Completely in support of you being on time to pick up your kids. But like, if we have a meeting, please set aside the time. Please give me the opportunity to go back and forth because I want to make sure that whatever I end up giving you is going to be a worthwhile product for you and the organization. And like it later showed, like I did end up doing and having a good product at the end of it, but it took me a much longer time to get there. Mm-hmm. We're saving everybody time when we give them an opportunity to actually have a bit of back and forth in that space. Not everything can become an email. Sometimes it should actually be a meeting.
Yep. I think I totally believe in some things can be an email, but I think when it's something super important like this, I need to hear someone say it. Also, to your point, Scott, like I need to put a face to the brand or to the agency. Like I want to know who these people are because sometimes like their emails, I'm like, everybody sounds corporate in an email and it's not super inviting. But then I get on a call with these people. I'm like, wait, they're so nice and so funny. Like they're just like me, where I feel like that is more inviting than me just being over email with them all the time.
ChatGPT has made that far worse too. It's like everyone just sounds like a corporate robot. It's like best regards.
Me. I'm like, I'm bullying me over email. I have to make a video for that.
Oh, that's so funny.
Gotta love that. So, I mean, I think we have a few more questions here on, but we'll take a quick breather in here to do a quick lightning round about you and your creator side of things. So I'll give you two options. You pick one. Give me a 1-sentence reason as to why. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So first question, Instagram or TikTok?
TikTok, because it's been my most lucrative. It was my first and it's my biggest. And I do find it the most fun.
Okay. I like that. Short form or long form content?
short form in the hopes of doing long form, but I can edit short form way faster than my brain lets me edit long form. But I have so many ideas for long form. My short form takes its champion first.
Okay, I can dig it. Now, short term or long term in terms of partnerships with brands?
Long-term partnership, because especially with like the brands that I've worked with in the past, I want to be their go-to person. I want them to be like, oh, we have the person for this. We have Louis. He'll do great carpet content, great concert coverage, whatever. I just want to be that person. And that's also like almost like steady income for me, which is also a plus.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this one, but video or static?
Oh, video. I love video. Static, though, I will say I do static for stories because I know people have shorter attention spans on stories. So I do pictures on it.
Okay, I like that one. I'm usually the opposite, but I really like that a lot. And then the very last one is, would you rather do something in your story or put it on your grid?
So that's dependent too. I would say like if it's a video, like one of my celebrity or like even just like me ranting, that's going on my grid. That's getting as many eyeballs as possible. Whereas I know my stories probably won't get the same reception on that. People like to just tap away. Same with me. So I would say grid.
Okay, I got a last one for you. Red carpet shot or glam cam?
I've had the worst experience with both. Like, I would say I could get my redemption at my next Glambot one because now I've practiced. So I want to say Glambot.
It's so funny when I saw that. I think maybe we've all done it, or maybe it's just me and my algorithm, but like gone down like the hour-long Glambot rabbit hole of just like. But the sad thing is I'm like a nerd and I'm like, what is this robot arm and how is he programming the different moves and the different camera stuff? It's pretty amazing tech.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there about to cry because I'm like, I don't know where it's going to end up. I'm not a celebrity, so he's only going to give me one try. The outfit was bad. Like I had the recipe for disaster and it struck.
It's so funny. I think about like, there's those celebs who no matter what angle you catch them from, it's just like the perfect picture always. I was laughing because Kwame and I had to do like our promo pics for this. And I was like, we have like 500 pictures. I find 3 that I like. And I'm like over here, like, Jennifer Lawrence from like 400 yards away through trees, like wearing sweatpants, looks amazing, walking down the street. And I'm like, what the hell? Come on, guys.
It's just easier for them. I don't know why.
It's God's gift. I have one question that we ask everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you worked some amazing brands, we dropped, DirecTV, Coca-Cola, all these different brands. What is a brand that if they were to come up to you tomorrow, it would be the number one brand that you would hope to work with?
Okay. So this is hard because I actually had the 2 that I had in mind when I didn't work with them were Coca-Cola and Taco Bell. And I recently worked with both of them out of nowhere, which I was like, I can't believe like this is happening because I grew up eating Taco Bell. Like it was me and my boyfriend love it. Coca-Cola, I've always loved Coca-Cola. But if it had to be someone else, I would want to say right now, I would love to somehow last minute get involved with the Wicked movie. Just because I think one thing I really loved was I did the Barbie movie premiere. Me and my boyfriend got to go. And that it just felt so unreal. Like we were there and I was like, wow, I can't believe what I've done so far has gotten me here. And I'm a part of such a huge moment in movie history. And then when out with Wicked, I think all of the marketing that's going on behind it, whether it's even not directly with the film, if like Bay's Luggage wanted to send me and Justin pink and green luggage, like I just think there's so many brands that are working within that sphere that anything Wicked related right now, I think would be a win. Well, if you need another one, I would say I love the halftime show for the Super Bowl. So if Apple Music ever wanted to do anything, I'm here. I do concerts, I do interviews, I do music. So that'd be another one.
Were you part of the giant Cheez-It Taco Bell creator activation?
Yeah, so I was one of the creators who did the AI, like breaking the AI story of how they like generated it using AI. And then I was a part of the big Cheez-It launch. And then I also was a part of like last year, a Cheez-It campaign for they did this Cheez-It stand in the middle of Palm Springs that I drove to and got to do that too. So it was like the meshing of 2 brands that I've worked really close with. So it was sick.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a fun one. Those guys are infinitely creative on both the marketing and the product development side.
Yeah, I'm like, I eat that stuff every night when I come home. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to cook Taco Bell.
Do you know, y'all are both kind of in a similar space. Do you know Kay Brown by any chance?
I know the name. I don't
Yeah.
and I can't place it though.
Yeah, her handle is K York City, and I remember
yes.
Yeah,
I don't know her as K or K York City.
exactly. I know that was. I remember when we interviewed her. I was like, "Welcome, Kay Brown," and she was like, "Nobody calls me that."
Did she do the Taco Bell campaign?
She did
also?
the Taco Bell campaign. Yeah, that's why I was going to bring it up. She said that was her favorite campaign to work with.
To the testament of that, they were just so fun to work with. Like it was just everything was so smooth and simple, and even like feedback. I think that's like people dread getting feedback from brands. Where I was like, "Tell me what you need," like because I don't care. I love this.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what's really funny? I might need to take some more tips from your content. I'm trying to transition. I'm not a big TikTok guy. I have like 23K on TikTok, so I'm a very everyday person on TikTok. And what I'm trying to get into is more of just like the camera phone dialogue, like just talk to people. Because I feel like that's when you get the most interaction because people love, and this is one thing I really love and attribute to like the greatness of how TikTok has succeeded is people love rawness and realness on TikTok. Right. So I'm definitely trying to steer more of my content into that direction. So as we get close to wrapping this up, thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Of course.
I wanted to give you our general version of our lightning round, and we'll see kind of where your head is at on these points. I think this is a cooler one. This is something, like I said, I took from someone else, and I really love the idea. So, are you ready for our general, non-creator oriented?
I'm so ready.
All right. So, favorite movie.
Okay, it depends. I have 3. One, there are 2 of them are airplane movies. So Crazy Rich Asians, I will watch every single time on a movie.
So good.
During the wedding scene, it is so good. I love that movie. Bridesmaids, I've always loved Bridesmaids. I think it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I used to be able to quote it word for word. And my most recent like Pixar love is Coco. Cried during that. That's a great movie. You can make me cry. It's great. So I think those are like my 3 that come to mind right off the bat.
It's funny you say on Crazy Rich Asians. There's these moments, and it's like comedians or creators do it, where it's like they find a human experience that you don't know is common across like everyone. It's like you watch Crazy Rich Asians on an airplane, and I was like, that's the only place I watched it. Like I watched it 3 different times on an airplane. I'm like,
then there was a ton of outrage when they took it off some airplanes. Like people are like, why did you take it off? And then they added it back.
I'm like, it's the perfect nexus of like in the zone where most people like it. It's like early in the alphabet. It's like I'm just like in all my search order it comes up.
It's such a simple story to follow. It's just lighthearted.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Funny, now that we are on the topic of airplanes, the next one is, what's your ideal travel destination?
Right now, my goal is to either go to Bali or Thailand. Just because me and my boyfriend got to travel to Australia, and everybody was like, oh, if you have like the opportunity, you should go and hit all of those areas because you're close enough. Unfortunately, we were there with a brand and they only put us up for a certain amount of time and we were just like not prepared. So it was like really cool to do that, but it opened my eyes to being like, okay, Bali is the next one I want to do, and Thailand. So definitely those.
All right. I like those. I like both of those choices. Bali's in my top 5. Favorite reality TV show?
Sorry, it's not Love is Blind. The Traitors. I am a huge... Okay, so the reason I love The Traitors so much is because I've grown up watching Survivor, Big Brother, The Challenge, Love is Blind I've watched like every reality show possible. I like when there's a crossover. I want all these people, the worst or nastiest or best game players to meet, because to me, that is the most exciting. And I think the best thing is when I sit with my boyfriend and he doesn't watch those shows. And I get to explain the lore of these people to him. He's like, who's Janelle? And I'm like, Janelle. I think about Janelle and her reasoning for being on Big Brother like 4 times and never winning. Like, it's so exciting to see people evolve later and play a game again.
It's
Yeah,
so funny you say that. When the traders, my wife and I watched that, and I knew like Pilot P. I knew like when CJ and Trishelle were on there, that would like took me so far back to the MTV whatever Road Rule. I didn't watch the challenge stuff. I watched the original like whatever Road Rules, Real World,
Yeah,
whatever they were
it was
on.
like when they got in the van, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. But then like they're like, oh, do you know Kate from Below Deck? Let me fill you in. It's like that exact thing. It's like all the crossovers is
well, I was
just
like
like
telling Jesse,
wild.
like Trishelle is. I was like, he's like, who's Trishelle? I'm like, it's just insane because Trishelle like got kicked off for fighting on the challenge and never came back, and like now she's here. Like it's just so weird.
gotta love that. You know, before I ask you the last one. Speaking on that, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago. I found one of the casting directors for Traders, and I just DM'd her and I said, "The next time y'all are casting, I want in."
Well, I still have an email from season 1 when they were casting like regular people. And my agent had sent me the email being like, you should apply to this. And I said, no, I was like, I'm good. Cause like I have a job and like, I don't want to worry about that. And then it came out and I was like, oh, why? I think in my inbox as just like a reminder to never say no to things.
Yeah, that is like one of my biggest golden rules. It's like say yes to everything.
You can say no.
Right. But very last one, beach or snowy mountains?
Why do you think I moved to LA? I need the I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and we would get the beach 3 months out of the year, and that was not enough for me. So I moved to LA where it's always warm, and if it's cold, it's like 60 degrees. Like, oh, boo-hoo. I couldn't handle the snow. I went to school in upstate New York, couldn't deal with it. Stayed all 4 years, was miserable. So beach all the way.
As we wrap things up, one question we ask everyone is, what piece of advice would you give to a creator who's getting started on their journey, trying to figure things out? The 2019 Louis, who's like, I think I'm going to give this a go. Maybe different context, not a global pandemic, but nonetheless, what advice would you have for them as they get started on their creator journey?
One thing I hear a lot of people say especially when they're like, oh, I want to post, like, how do you get up on camera every day? Like, aren't you worried what people think? I feel like so many people are worried about what their high school peers would say about them or people from their life that are no longer in it. And to me, it's like, these people will never play a part in your career moving forward. They were even if you're still friends with people from high school, it's just that these people and their thoughts truly don't really have an effect on you, especially after a global pandemic. Like anything, everyone wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants to do social media because what we've heard is that it's fun. It provides an income. You get to be your own boss and do those things. And if that's what you want and you have a story to tell or a talent or a skill, just post. You don't need the equipment. You don't need lights. You don't need a professional microphone to start. You just need your phone. And that's what I was always taught, even in college. That was their thing. They were like, you're going to go out and film a 10-minute short with your phone. And it was because sometimes that's all you have. So I feel like the only excuse you have is what the roadblocks you're putting in front of yourself. If you don't put those roadblocks up, the world's endless. You could do whatever you want. My other thing is too, I think once you get into it, a lot of people will look at it as a competitive thing. And I believe that competition doesn't exist if you don't want it to. I think there's room for everybody. And also, if you're looking at other people as competition, you're not focusing on yourself. And that's what makes it harder. So if you just take out any idea of competition or comparison, you'll have so much more fun and you'll come up with your best ideas. That's what's happening to me right now. Like, I don't listen to anybody else. I trust my gut. I do what I think is going to work. And 9 times out of 10, it's the best decision I've made.
I love that so much. I firmly believe that there is so much space for folks to go out and create and, create community too. Like, I think it's way more fun when people create community amongst each other and share ideas and collab. And, we talked a lot about like creator collabs and that being one of the most fun and entertaining because it's like communities colliding and it's like, oh my God, Louis is on with like, I didn't even think that would ever happen. And this is the most exciting day. Like these two people who I follow now are like in one place. And if you're competitive, that's never going to happen. And it doesn't need to exist, especially in the creator space. So I love that message.
Yeah. And that's the most fun. Like I did a trip with Hulu and they had a bunch of us and we all made content together. And like people are like, why are you all together? Like we would never expect this group of people to be together. And I'm like, that to me is so exciting to see. So to have been a part of something like that, I was like, oh, I need another trip with these people. Like we need to do more content.
You know what? That is a note quickly to everyone that collaboration and being together and looking out for each other is always going to further your growth way faster than competition will.
Exactly. That's the best way to say it. You said it shorter than I did.
Awesome. Well, it's been amazing to connect with you. I feel like I learned so much, had a lot of fun. And, I hope our audience walks away with a little bit of fun, inspiration, and some useful tips to go out and crush their creator journey, make some money, do great brand deals. And brand marketers, collab with your creators, get on a call, involve them in the process. But Louis, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And I look forward to watching all that you accomplish and all the positivity you're out there spreading.
Yeah, totally. Thank you guys so much. It was so fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Louis. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
See ya.